Welcome to the Nightly Rant
with
your hosts, Mike
and Toria.
This is the show where we examine society from a sarcastic point of view.
If you like insane conversations, this is definitely the show for you.
Let's get into today's topic. YPN people, I don't know about you, but I love helping out a friend. That's why I want to shout out my friend Brian Little and his podcast, Your Favorite Blockhead. This is the only show that manages to weave together peanuts and MMA into one heck of an amazing podcast. You can find Your Favorite Blockhead wherever your favorite podcasts reside and at yourfavoriteblockhead.com. Do me a huge favor and listen to Brian's show. You'll be entertained and you'll help out a friend. Now, as I said, let's get into today's topic. Well, that day has finally come.
That day, it's arrived.
Mr. Beans, the
magical fruit
foster dog, he's gonna go to puppy manners. Well, dog manners. He's a
it's
puppy.
not technically a puppy
old
anymore.
What was the age cutoff on that?
16 weeks.
16. Who takes a dog to training at 16 weeks? But okay.
Lunatics.
Well, I guess what is that? 4 months? That's probably about right. 4 to 6 months. But
can you just imagine the chaos?
I'm worried about the chaos tonight because this dog loves every single person and other dog that he sees, and he can't contain himself. So this is going to be very interesting. That, I was thinking, though, that may be what breaks him of that habit, is this class. I
wonder if we get a refund if he gets kicked out. That's really what I want to know.
My guess is if he bites somebody, no. But if he
yodels
is just a bad boy and can't handle it, if he can't handle it, they'll kick him out. So where are we going?
SPCA LA in Long Beach.
So that really nice place on Spring Street that looks like a
the same place
hotel for dogs. Oh, okay. And where we brought Yogi. Okay, got it. Okay, good.
At least I think so.
So maybe we'll get a refund if they get booted. So tonight we have a guest. His name is Patrick Young, and I met him on a local Facebook group during a discussion of the homeless crisis in Orange County, and specifically Buena Park. And he actually asked, can you imagine that, to be on the show. So welcome to the show, Patrick.
Thank you very much.
So why
don't you tell punishment.
Why don't you tell us your thoughts on this homeless situation that we're currently facing?
It's crazy. I don't know really where to go with it. I really don't like the shelter idea. I understand the importance of it. So we've had our conversations on Facebook about it, and I see you're a big proponent of it. So I just really started looking into it. Like you said, you've asked, what is the actual reasons to not like it? Why so adamant against it? And I started really thinking about it. And one lady made a comment the other day about how a sober living home, they were looking over the backyard into her yard. So that one really hit me thinking about that. If I were to look out my fence, out my own backyard, seeing somebody that I know who, as far as the homeless, I know there's some people that are generally down on their luck, but in my opinion, the majority of them are, what's the word? Just they ain't doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Okay, now you are aware though that statistics don't agree with you on that at all, right?
Yes.
And I'm not even talking about just here in Orange County. I'm talking nationwide. The statistics, they say roughly, well, it depends on the area you're in, but roughly 30 to 40% of the people are they have addiction problems, and that's why they're on the street, because they just can't function in society. And then the other 60% are just people who, they've been down on their luck and they end up out on the street. And once they're out there for too long, it's very difficult to get back into the swing of things.
I agree 100% on that one. The time frame is critical. Because I was homeless for a little while myself, and it was, and I believe this goes for everybody. It was a consequence of my own actions. I was making bad decisions. There's been posts, people are one paycheck away from being homeless. I saw the signs and I chose to ignore them, and I just kept. I didn't. Let's see, where do I want to go with this? I worked for SoCal Gas. And before that, I was a plumbing contractor in the San Fernando Valley, had a good business. I was the plumber's plumber. So various plumbing companies would call my guys and we'd go out and do all the dirty jobs for them, all the hard ones. Good living. That was back in early 2000s. So 2007, I get with the gas company. Hey, great career, great benefits. I was part-time as a meter reader. Talking with them, they're like, oh yeah, you're going to get picked up quick. You're going to get moved up from part-time to full-time within the year. All right, cool. Well, that took 3 years. And because I drank the Kool-Aid, I started selling off all my tools, my truck, all my contacts, my guys. I told them, hey, this is the route I'm going. You gotta find something else. And because I was looking, they were out doing their thing. I was waiting for this. Before I knew it, I was doing 20 hours a week, making $13 an hour, and that's a huge drop off, going from making $80,000 a year. And then ended up getting some serious issues with my wife. Got divorced, and before I knew it, yeah, I'm homeless. I'm living in my toy hauler that I had. And it took me probably a good year and a half to get out of that situation. And I definitely believe that time frame is critical. I was fortunate that I did have family to help out because I have custody of my two sons. They were real little at the time. I want to say they were 2 and 6 when everything was happening. But it worked out. I was able to pull through. Then I get this job and starts working out. I move out here to Anaheim, and hey, it's going great. And I'm living in a nice little apartment and start realizing that Anaheim's not as a Disneyland as I thought it was, and starting to get more interaction with the homeless at the apartment we were living at, where stuff's getting broken into. They're sleeping in our actual carports, dealing with all of that. And I've done, I don't know if you guys noticed on Facebook, I've done a lot of charity work. I try not to toot my horn about it, but I like helping. I prefer not to do homeless stuff. I rather do like leukemia, cancers, that kind of stuff. But I have done a little bit of work like Vet Hunters MC. I ride a motorcycle. They do a lot of stuff where they go directly to pick up veterans and help them out. When you donate clothes or something, they go find a veteran and help them out.
That's nice.
So it's a great little program. My real kicker for the homeless, for us, as far as changing my whole perception on them, was we lived over at the Parkdale townhouse community over there at the end of Dale in the 91. My garage looks at the freeway, and this was let's see, we're in 2019, so 2015 through 2017. There is I didn't realize how bad the homeless are underneath the freeway, the bridges down there, and they basically overtook our complex. That they actually got into one of the units, took it over, made it a drug haven for them, and they were dealing out of there, and they were cutting the fences every night, breaking into the cars every night, coming through the complex, getting their drugs, going straight to Boys Rack Park. Various motorhomes were in there. City of Anaheim PD, I got to give them credit. They were out there trying to help us out. City of Buena Park was trying to do their part, even though that particular community didn't fall under their jurisdiction, that weird little nook. And it got bad. I got to see the worst of the worst. And got to deal with a lot of people one-on-one, homeless people one-on-one. And I started talking to them. Hey, what's going on? What's your situation? And it, you know, that's where I go back and forth between the homeless, the issue itself, between how much help are we doing, how much money's being thrown to it, how many people actually need help, how many people have just accepted this is their lifestyle, and we as a society look back on it that, oh my god, how can you live like this? And I have family members that are homeless. I had I guess he's a great uncle that 30 something years just lived on the street, veteran and everything else, did not want to have a home, did not want to live, did not want to conform. And our whole family's like, we're here to help. Let's do this. Let's do that. Let's get back on your feet. And he's like, why? I get a few bucks here and here. I get to do my drugs when I want. Nobody tells me what to do. I don't have to worry about the stresses of raising my kids, stresses of bills, stresses of that. And um, it was hard to accept. And I have another family member that I consider homeless, but um, they're not. It's the situation that they're living in. They're living in an RV. I don't agree with why they're doing it, but they're maintaining their job. They're maintaining the kids going to school. But it's like, hey, this is homeless. You're not supposed to be doing this. You should have a stable place to go to. You are career minded. Why are you in this situation? And she's just doing her thing.
Well, okay. I understand that's completely your personal experience, but I've got two things I want to say. One is a comment, and then one I want to tell you about a plan I've been kind of peddling to the government for about 4 years. And I'll explain the end game of the plan, and then I'll tell you the 5 steps of the plan. So first of all, let's talk about the people that took over your apartment complex and, took over were squatting in an apartment and using it as a drug den, etc. If you go and talk to one of those people, of course you're going to hear the side of homelessness that's the druggie that's just doing it for taking advantage, because those people were clearly, they didn't give a damn that they could take over an apartment that wasn't theirs. So they're not exactly, your normal
They're
homeless
not the
people.
outstanding.
I could turn around and give you the story of being out with Buena Park Police and over by Wiley Drake's church and meeting this really nice lady. And she was in tears, and she said her husband was back there at the church and they weren't letting him leave. And so they sent a police officer over there, and they got the husband and the 3-year-old out of there. And so here's this couple and a 3-year-old, and they're homeless because his similar situation, what you were talking about, his job took him from $60,000 a year down to about $10,000 a year as a part-time employee. So he couldn't afford to live where he was living. But in talking to them, their problem was they weren't aware of some of the programs that were available to help them get back on their feet. And so, I can, for every story I hear like yours, I can tell 2 or 3 like that, because there's 2 sides to the homeless issue. And the problem is, you heard the statistic I gave you. It's about 60-40. So for all intents and purposes, it's 50-50, right? So you got a 50-50 chance of meeting somebody who, for lack of a better term, is just lazy and they don't care. They want to live that life, and, it's great for them and whatever. But here's the thing. That brings me exactly to my point of why I have the plan I have. The end game is let law enforcement do its job. And, there's several local homeless advocates who actually hate my guts because to them, they're such bleeding heart that the police should never be involved. And I don't agree with that because of exactly what you said. Even let's say the number is 40% that don't want help. That's 40% of people that just want to live on our streets and steal from us and do all this terrible stuff. I do not claim that that's not true. I think that they are out there like that. So here's my plan. Here's what my plan was. That still leaves 60% who likely want to get off the street somehow, but maybe they've been out there too long and so they've lost their identification. And, our government makes it really hard. There's a lot of red tape to get through these programs. So the first step in getting this problem solved is to take the people that want help and give them some kind of transitional housing, like these navigation centers that they're talking about. Key thing here, though, is there has to be services that wrap around that. So the next step is get them paperwork ready. Find, get them their ID. If they don't have their social security card, help them get that. Connect them up with, if they've got substance abuse problems, connect them up with people who can help them with that. And then put them into more permanent housing. It's still transitional, but put them into something more permanent. And finally, you're left with everybody that wants help is helped, and you're left with a group of people that don't want any help. Well, then you give them step 4, which is you can create, and there's a proposal that's been out there for years, to create like these mobile home park type places where they use like mini homes, and it's like $150 a month per person to live there. And most of these homeless people have that money, and it would give them shelter and it would give them a place to go. And what just happened?
I was typing. I said,
And
do we have a breakdown between bad luck situations like I was describing with myself and those that are on the addiction?
yeah, I can pull that up. There's a report that came out about that not that long ago. But the if you offer them those little houses, then finally you're left with the group that we're talking about, that they don't care, they want to be out on the street. Here it is. But the police can now do something about it because, as you know, the courts have said you can't do anything about this until there's resources. And so, to me, what happens is the people who are yelling and screaming about not wanting to provide the resources are sort of banging their heads against the wall, because it isn't you saying they have to, it isn't me saying they have to, it isn't the mayor saying they have to. It's the courts, and it's the federal court. And the worst part about it is it's the Ninth Circuit Court, and they govern this part of the country, everything from Idaho to Washington to Oregon to California, Nevada. And so they have ruled that you must provide resources. Well, okay, my plan does exactly that. I mean, I give them multiple types of resources. At the end, let's say 70% were still left on the street. Who cares? Police can deal with them. Maybe there's only one person left in the street. Doesn't matter. The police can deal with them. My end game is to allow the police to not be handcuffed. You asked about, so I have in front of me here the Orange County 2019 point in time count results. So are you aware of what the point in time count is?
Yes. Yeah, that's when you guys physically went out and walked around and
counted,
located everybody. Yeah, but you could.
Yeah, I got made fun of for that. They said, yeah, sure, you went and counted the people. Okay, you don't know what you're talking about, but that's all right.
I saw you guys. I saw groups. Actually, with my job, I'm able to go to the field, and I saw you guys out there cruising around looking for people. So
Yeah,
it's like, good, cool.
So it says 51.98% were chronic homeless, and that actually doesn't mean what people think it means. It means that for whatever reason, health issues that are eating up their finances or whatever, they're just never able to,
can't seem to get back going.
Yeah. Like things always look great on paper, and they just don't seem to work out in real life. Then 32.9% are substance abuse issues. 30.8% is as a result of physical disability. 26.47% are mental health issues. 13.7% are developmental disabilities. 9.5% are domestic violence. And I don't know why this is a thing, but 1.8% are because of HIV and AIDS. It's strange. That one's strange to me. That one's really strange to me. But the point here is that that's a lot of people that are out there because of, substance abuse is 32%. That's it. Mental health is 26%. So you're talking about half of them are out there because of crazy issues, and the other half, they're just down on their luck. Now,
wow.
the key part about these statistics is that 51% have family in Orange County. How do you like that? 51% have attended school in Orange County, and 72% are either working or have worked in Orange County. It even shows, where is it? 22% are employed, 55% are unemployed, 18% are disabled, and 5% refuse to answer. And that was the thing. We weren't allowed to force
how to read along with you, because I know you put that one post on there.
Yeah, it's a very interesting situation. But like what I continually ask people, and they don't know the answer because I'm kind of thinking they don't want to know the answer, but 80%, this is a stat that's held true for years. 80% of the homeless have lived in the county more than 10 years, and their last known permanent address is in the city where they're homeless. So the whole, oh, they dumped people, etc. There's a gentleman online that's been posting logical points, which I kind of think is cool but funny because nobody cares about logic on Facebook. But he points out, like, what's your argument against the shelter? Well, other cities should be doing it. So you're saying that because other cities aren't doing the right thing, Buena Park shouldn't do the right thing. And that's what you're saying. No, that's not. Well, then what are you saying? Well, other cities should step up. Exactly. But shouldn't Buena Park handle its own business? And they can't answer that. Or they'll say, there's going to be too many homeless near the children. Well, aren't those same homeless already near the children? And to your point about the sober living home and the guy looking over the fence, I don't know if you know this, but in the model of the shelter that they're doing, they have probably 10 security guards on duty at all times, and they generally build the fencing about 10 feet high.
Okay, so that way they're attempting to maintain the privacy, which I think that's some information that should be shared.
Well,
security guards.
The city's done a terrible job of explaining this. I'll be the first to admit they've done. We talked to their marketing person, and even she felt they were not doing a great job of being transparent, and it kind of cost them, But bottom line, you have a situation where if they follow these new shelter guidelines, they're not allowed to leave unless they take a shuttle and drive out, or if they have a car, they can come and go with a car. But those people have jobs. That's why they have a car. Most of them. And it's, I did some volunteer work at Bridges Shelter. I've worked with homeless people for on and off for like 25 years. And you know what? I've seen what you've seen, but I've also seen a lot of people who are homeless because they went through a divorce.
Yeah,
I personally was homeless for a few months.
Stories also. It's not all negative. I have seen some good stories. There are some people that I've commented about that online about it. Is okay, say you got 100 people. What are we trying to do? Are we trying to help just that one, or are we trying to help? Say there's 10 people that are just down on their luck, and then the other 20 people are down on their luck, the other 80% are mental and addiction. So that's what the goal is that we're trying to reach that 20 before they cross over into the addiction and mental. And
sure,
I kind of two thoughts on same thought on it. For my homelessness, I believe it for addiction also. How do you get out of it? Well, it's the individual. They have to reach out. And I think that's one of the hardest things for me is I think we're too much going to them. That they're not, I know that I understand they have limited resources. They're stuck in one spot. Like city of Anaheim, we got to see them. They put 300 people placed back with their families, and I believe it was 2016.
Yeah.
And the PD is just the Anaheim PD. That's one of the things they kept telling us. When you talk to the homeless, they said, stop being confrontational. This is going back to that house over there. They said, stop being confrontational. They said, document it. Who's coming back and forth? So that way we know who's coming in and out, who's committing these crimes possibly, start putting names and faces to fingerprints and stuff. So what ended up happening was I do a lot of work in my garages. So the garage door would be open. Somebody would walk by. I'd go out there. Hey, guys, I just want to give you guys a heads up for documentation purposes. I'm taking your picture. This is the HOA got a no trespassing, I guess, court order. So with the PD, so that anybody stepped on that property that didn't live there could be arrested immediately for trespassing because the problem was so bad. So that's what we ended up doing, is talking to all these various people, and then started hearing the different stories of what's going on. Hey, what about this? What about that? Well, did you know that you reach out to City of Anaheim, they can help place you back with whoever. So it some took advantage of it, a lot didn't. I had one guy that he was the drug dealer. He was running on a little scooter, and he would haul ass down Dale. There's a little cut in the fence right there. He had put his little scooter through that little Vespa, and then ride along the back of the freeway, get to the bridges, sell his crap.
That's
And
intuitive.
yeah, and it was funny because I stopped him one day and I said, "Hey, dude, I can't let you go through this. We're having too much issues. You guys are cutting the fences. This is ridiculous. We got some elderly women here that we're looking out for. We got wives, we got daughters, we got kids. A lot of bad stuff was happening." And they're like, "Oh no, you guys are just blaming us." Like, no, it's happening. I was working out in my garage, and I had a guy walk up on the other side of my car scouting my garage, and he didn't know I just happened to be down in a push-up position. I saw him underneath the car, and I'm going, "This son of a bitch, what the hell is he doing?" And so I popped up. I was like, "Hey, what's up, dude?" And I'm just tying my shoe. And he went back to the fence and ties his shoe. I'm like,
Well,
yeah.
let me ask you something. It kind of sounded earlier like you were saying that you think people need to hit rock bottom before they're going to be willing to get help. Is that what you were saying?
Sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Okay,
I
but would
firmly
you
believe
agree?
that.
But would you agree that rock bottom is different for everybody?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so is it perhaps possible that if someone's out on the street and they're doing drugs, or maybe they're just drinking too much, or maybe both, and then they're told by the police, well, look, you can either go to jail or you can go into this homeless shelter. So they accept the invitation to go into the homeless
Homeless.
shelter. Is it
Yeah.
is it possible that at that point they realize that's their rock bottom and they want help? Do you think
Hopefully.
that's possible?
Hopefully.
Okay, so
Be awesome.
here's what this I always go by what the real, I mean, there's statistics and statistics can be manipulated. I get that. Why I like to quote some of the statistics though is because nationwide they seem to hold true. So I would kind of feel like, nobody's fudging these. There'd have to be some massive conspiracy for that to happen. But let's forget about the statistics. Let's just talk about what happens in the real world. In many, many cities around the world, they've had come as you are housing. So they offer you a place to stay, and you're allowed, even if you're a drug addict and alcoholic, you're allowed to come and you're allowed to stay there, even if you're a drug addict or an alcoholic. And what actually has happened, this is the problem. Why I like to use real world examples. We can surmise on our own what might happen, what we think will happen, what our opinion is will happen, but you can't argue with what actually happens. Like, yesterday, my son guaranteed us it would not rain. Well, it rained. I mean, he was sure it wasn't going to rain, but it rained. Well, what happened was these people, for whatever reason, their self-esteem slowly got restored, and they started to realize, 5 years ago when I first became homeless, I wasn't a meth addict and I wasn't an alcoholic, and I want my life back that I had. And they turned things around, and it actually happened in every single circumstance. There has not been a single instance where they have tried housing the homeless that has not worked. Not a single instance. And the problem here in Orange County is they think creating an emergency shelter is, and I'm going to use the capital T, the solution. And it's not. It's part of the solution, but it's not the solution. There has to be a way to give these people back their self-esteem. And you know what? Those who, I hate to sound harsh, but those people who say, oh, well, all they're going to do is do their drugs from their bed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know what? I'll admit they could be right. There's going to be a percentage that
There's
are,
going
but
to
you
be
know what
some
else?
that do. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And you know what? They're never going to change. And eventually they'll get booted out of there and they'll end up in jail. And there you go.
And that solves the problem.
Exactly.
I see.
Because now,
Looking at that point, I'm going, sounds reasonable, but it's like, but how much money do we throw at it? Because it
I
just
love when people ask that question,
always wonders.
Patrick. You know my answer.
I know we're already paying for it. Yeah.
How much are we paying for it? Do you know?
We're paying $50,000 per person.
Exactly. On the top 10%. I mean, let's be accurate. It's the top. They've ranked these homeless people in like order of like service provider usage, and the top 10% cost us $50,000 per person per year, and the average is $35,000 per person per year. So you take 35 grand and multiply that by 7,000. That's a lot of money
A
that we're
literal grab
spending.
load.
And if you pull them off the street, you're no longer paying the 35,000 because the police are not continually having to come out and tell them to move on. The fire department isn't coming out having to rescue them from stupid situations that they get themselves into.
Damn
And so you save
overdoses.
that money and you turn that money into housing. And that's how these shelters have survived, is that the cities that have them save money. I estimated at one point that Orange County could save $20 million a year savings, including the housing cost. So what you're paying now would be $20 million higher, only you wouldn't have homeless roaming the streets.
What was the final tally for the debacle with the river? That was the amount of money on that was just unbelievable.
There were 700 people evicted from there. 700. And see, don't even get me started on that, because the county completely mishandled that.
That was bad. That was I thought the number was up to 1,300 is what the initial start count was.
That's the estimate.
Actually got, what was it, like 900 into something in the first week. It dropped down to 2, and then it was just
it ended
hotels
up
got trashed.
They placed 700 people out of there, but here's the problem with how the county handled it. No plan. And that's
There's
been
no follow through. Mm-hmm.
Do you know that when you research this, in 1988, the Orange County grand jury convened to look at homelessness, and they made a recommendation to the board of supervisors on what to do. And at that time, the board of supervisors said, "Oh, well, we have $145,000 in the budget for that." Yeah, that's going to go a long way towards helping 7,000 homeless people. But okay, they did nothing, basically. Then again, in early 2000s, same kind of report. And now here we are today. So who do you think is really to blame for this crisis? The government. Because had they acted in 1988, what is that, 31 years ago? My gosh. I actually could run a mile without dying back.
I didn't exist.
Come on.
I mean, seriously,
in 88.
Yeah, it's there's so many problems. And I totally see.
I graduated elementary.
I totally see your point of view. I do. But if you notice, nothing that you say phases me, because I've heard all these comments before. And when I created my plan, I didn't just sit down and act like a politician and go, okay, how can I look good? That wasn't my goal. Was to give the police back their authority, because we live in a society where to me, the role of government, and I see the police as government, is to arbitrate our rights. That's what their goal. That's what government should be doing, is making sure that, when you're in your house, you can do whatever you want. When I'm in my house, I can do what I want. But when we're out in public together, you shouldn't come up to me and punch me in the head. That's not right. And I shouldn't do the same. Exactly. I shouldn't do that to you either. So we need the police to be able to do their job. And it also, unfortunately, having 7,000 homeless roaming the streets, how many of those do you think are criminals who are just hiding amongst the homeless? I think it's a lot.
I think there's quite a few. Even like on our Facebook page, I think there's a few that are lingering on there. And I think we've actually made a difference with that by advertising what we're doing, who we're looking out for.
Yeah. Your story of your apartment complex kind of proves the point that there's criminals hiding amongst the homeless, because that's pretty brazen. Like, the normal homeless person, they're gonna go into your car if you leave it unlocked, but they're not going to break the window. They're not going to break the window to go in the car.
They're going to take hey, if the door's unlocked, I'm going to take advantage of it, grab what I can. I don't want to get caught, because that's going to just put me even further back. Yeah.
But those people didn't give a damn. They were taking over an apartment, and they dared you to do something.
Yeah, and that guy on that Vespa, it was funny because he started telling me this whole thing. Well, I'm down on my luck. I got 2 felonies. I can't get a job, so I sell drugs. And I'm going, whatever, dude.
I have 2 felonies, so now I'm committing more.
Yeah, I got 2 felonies, so I'm committing more. And the funny thing is I said, all right, I get all that. Reach out to the Buena, to the Anaheim PD. They can attempt to help you. And the guy is like, no. And I said, well, here's what's going to happen. You are not going through the fence tonight. I am stopping you. I'm going to fix this fence tonight, because I was fixing that stupid chain link fence every damn night. My wife's yelling at me. So the guy starts. He's like, "You ain't stopping me. I'm gonna do my thing." And I was like, "No, you're not." And he's like, "Oh, well, I'm gonna kick your ass." And I said, "That's funny. You just told me your little story about 2 felonies. You're trespassing because you're in the property. You went down the little alley. You're
Yeah,
going through the fence that's been cut. So now you're gonna get blamed for that. And now you're threatening to kick my ass. Well, let's do it, dude." And then
yeah. It
he
doesn't
looked
sound
at
like a
me
guy down on his luck, right?
and he's looking at me and he's like, "What?" I said, "Let's do it. I ain't afraid of you. You're gonna kick my ass. Let's do it. But you're not getting through that fence." And he's like, "Fine." So he moves his little Vespa down, puts it back into the street, and I got my stance and I knuckled up and it's like, "Oh crap, here we go. I got flip flops on. This dude's gonna bust my toes up." And finally he backed down and jumped on his Vespa, took off, went to Stanton, cut the fence back there. Then he's running past me, and as he's driving by, he's flipping me off. It's like, "Yeah, screw you too. We got you on camera." PD comes by. The PD comes by because they see me fixing the fence.
Right.
They're doing their rounds, and so they're, "Hey, what's up?" I said, "I'm glad to see you guys. Here he is. I got a picture of him. This is our confrontation." All right, so ran into the guys later on, and they're like, "Yep, bike was stolen. He's supposed to be living over in off of Brookhurst and this and that. We caught him, arrested him. All right, cool. So something positive happened out of it. But 2
Sure, but
felonies. I'm gonna kick your ass. All right, let's do it."
here's I don't want to minimize what you've said because it's your experience, it's what you've lived through, and it sucks. It does. It sucks. When we moved here, we had homeless people. Like there's an apartment building next to us, and it has like a really deep area of grass, and there'd be people that would sleep back there and camp out back there. And I'm not fond of that. I don't want my wife walking our dog and being harassed by people.
Give me
I'm
money.
not
Give
fond
me
of
a
that at all.
dollar. Oh,
Yeah, exactly. I just
I'm from
not fond
San
of it.
Fernando Valley, and it is wow, that it is bad out there. And
Yeah,
then
it's really bad out there. Los Angeles County has
Portland,
50 something thousand homeless people. It's crazy.
I went to Portland
But
for work. They are brazen enough to ask you for specific dollar amounts. Give me $5.
oh my
And it's
God.
like, no, I don't hand out directly to homeless. I've spoken to the various law enforcement agencies. Do not give your money directly to them. Go to the various programs that are attempting to help. So
That's what they're like in Lethbridge too. They
that's
will
my
ask you
end
for
game.
specific
Hey,
dollar amounts.
people, stop handing money directly to them. You're not helping. You're creating worse of a problem. So that just flipped me out. That we're going from our hotel to the various conferences, and these guys, and they're following you, and they're on you because they know that people are going to cave. That, all right, just leave me alone here. I just take everything I got. And it's like,
Well, here, you know what though? You know what though? Everybody has their stories. That's where I was heading with this.
yeah,
Everybody has their stories, and I don't doubt their stories. And I know I need to do a better. And anyone listening to this, because we'll promote this in the Buena Park group. Anybody listening to this, I know that I need to do a better job of letting you know that I appreciate your story. But here's why I sometimes tend to look like I'm dismissing your story. Your stories do nothing to
to
change the
help. Yeah,
situation. We have to do something to change the situation. And you were talking before, and what gets me is the very same people who rail against the homeless are those who say, if we could just help just one person, we would be better off. Just whatever social program they come up with. If it helps one person, it's a good thing. Well, why are we opposed to a homeless shelter? Because I'm going to say, if it helps one person, it's a good thing. I mean, what Judge Carter did, in my opinion, is brilliant. And you know what? If you're observant, you can use this in discussions. What he did was he asked the people who are the defendants, what percentage do you think are just going to want to stay on the street and don't want help? And they were, of course, like 80%. And then the plaintiffs said, that's not true. It's only 20%. So he brought in the police chiefs from across the county, and they basically came to a consensus that it was 40%. So he looked at the defendants and he said, can you agree to 40%? Sure. He looked at the plaintiffs. Can you agree to 40%? Sure. And then he said, what about the 60% then that we agree are in need of help. What about those 60%? And every time someone would say, look, Your Honor, those 25 people at that park, they've been camping out there. They want to live there. I don't care. What about the 60%? And that's what I say. I say, what about the people who want help? And his deal is, if you take that 60% off the street, perhaps you can figure some things out to help other people avoid being homeless. Because as we talked about it towards the opening of the show, the timing is everything. It's like, do you ever watch like that show, The First 48?
No.
Okay, it's a show about
I know of it.
homicide
Yeah.
detectives.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
and
first 48
it's
is critical. Yeah.
and the theory is they have 48 hours to get a lead, or they're going to have a hard time finding the person. And I think it's like that with homelessness. I think you have a certain amount of time to get your butt back in gear, or you're pretty much stuck in that rut for a very, very. We have a lady that has, since I've lived here, she kind of moves around the different streets, but she has her car and she sleeps in her car. She bathes somewhere because she's not dirty. She goes to work every day, but our suspicion is she either has something on her record, super terrible credit, something's keeping her from getting a place to live because she's making money. And that person's homeless. They need help somehow. One of the things I've heard of other cities doing is the police chief will kind of vouch for the person to the landlord and say, look, I've ran their record. They did make one mistake, but they've paid for it and they've never done anything since. Could you please help them out and let them? And they do,
So a
because
letter of
they kind of
reference
trust.
from the police department. That's outstanding.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's where we need to head. We need to head as a community. We need to all pull together. I understand, like, like I'm going to kind of list off a few things. Now, people in your neighborhood were saying the housing values were going to go down. Well, that's not what the real world says. Real world says housing values stay either declining or rising at the same rate they always were. It's actually worse to have the homeless roaming the streets for your home values than it is to have them in a shelter. People
Because
over by
of
the
the
industrial,
opportunists. Yeah.
yes, and people over in the industrial area are complaining that their home values are going to go down. But really, like my wife said the other day, that's a function of where they live. They live next to an industrial area where trucks are in and out all the time. People don't want to pay for that high value prices. So bottom line, I think I totally get where you're coming from with your stories, and those things would piss me off too. But don't you want to be able to say that you don't have to deal with that ever again? I think the answer is yes to that,
Yeah,
right?
definitely. And I
So
do think there
help.
is how to help. I think that's the how do we do it? And like you just said, the timing is critical. Um, I think self accountability is critical. A lot of
Sure.
people nowadays are, they're not doing that. There's no sacrifice. It's I want, I want, I
Mm,
want, and I get it. And then all of a sudden everything goes wrong and they don't make any adjustments. We did that. We got the cable, got the cell phone, got this, and all of a sudden I'm going, oh shit, we got nowhere to live. Okay,
well,
let's
right.
get
I
rid
mean,
of all this stuff and start building
I've
back
lived
up.
through that. I've lived through that. When I went through my divorce, I spent 3 months couch surfing and sleeping in my vehicle. Um, but uh, a lot of that was due to the legal situation that was going on. It made things very difficult. But once that was cleared up and I took a hold of it, I found a roommate and I moved in. You know what I mean? Who wants to be in their mid 40s living with a roommate? Nobody really wants to do that. But guess what? It was what I had to do, so I did it. Didn't have cable TV. Had the smallest, because I'm a technology guy, I had to have internet, so I had the smallest internet connection I could afford to pay for. You just do, you
What
get
you have to
by
do. Yeah, yeah.
and you do
I
what you
ended
have
up
to
getting
do.
3 jobs. It was
Yeah, there you go.
insane. And I was fortunate I had family to help me out with the boys because it was
Yes, that's
meter reading in the
awesome.
morning, and then I worked at Target for afternoons, and then evenings I was managing a club. And it's like I got no sleep, and
Yeah, good for you though.
that was a
That's how it
rough
should be.
half
That's how it
year.
should be.
But self-sacrifice, and it's like, okay, I've screwed up enough. Let's turn this stuff around. met my future wife. She saw something glimmering in me, and luckily she took a chance, so that helped out too.
Sure. So, okay, we're gonna wrap this up here pretty soon, but what I wanted to do is kind of ask you to like kind of summarize your feelings about our discussion and also invite you like, you ever have other issues or even the same issue that you want to come on and talk about, you're welcome back
Yeah,
anytime.
yeah. Sweet. Um, I felt the conversation went very positive. You guys do have a lot of good facts and numbers. You have good opinions. Um, I don't residential. That is such a tough conversation. Um, just like you said, they're the homeless are already out on the street. They're already near the kid. The bad people are going to do bad things. Um, for anybody that's listening, I'd like to reiterate what the various police departments are saying. Stop doing direct handouts. You know, donate your money to the various programs. Find one that you like, that you respect. Volunteer. Um, I we did the photo ops last year for Christmas. I built that crazy Christmas stuff in my front yard, and we were trying to get donations for it. Unfortunately, it got a little twisted in some people's minds because I was asking for $5 per person, and it was kind of a more of a self-preservation of the stuff I built. I didn't want to just have hundreds and hundreds of people coming over and trampling our stuff.
Sure.
But we did raise almost $500 on it, so that was pretty cool, and gave it to giving children hope. Um, so
That's the best approach is Patrick's absolutely right, people. You need to get involved, you need to volunteer, you need to, if you have the means, donate your money. If you don't have the means, donate your time. And guess what? We're all really busy, but if you could find a half an hour to donate your time, they appreciate it. I spent months going to Bridges Shelter and working with a program called Jobs for Life. And we found a lot of people jobs. And it wasn't job training that we gave them. We taught them how to get through an interview. We taught them how to remind them you got to shake hands when you meet somebody.
confidence
And here's
building.
how you shake hands. And just kind of the basic things that they had forgotten. And then we also, on the other side of that coin, we went out to places like Chick-fil-A and Best Buy, and we made connections with managers of stores. And we said, okay, look, we got these people that are homeless. Some of them are going to be felons, but we've put them through a program. We've vetted them. We've done background checks. We've made sure they're not violent criminals. Would you be willing to employ them? And most of the people said yes. And so we also had really strict rules. These were, oh my gosh, it was 8 weeks of classes, and they were 2 hours each class, so 16 hours. If you missed 2 classes, you were out of the program until the next time. And so, the idea wasn't just to teach, and people were like, oh, that's mean. Well, it's not mean, because
Consistency.
what would happen if you don't show up for your job 25% of the
Consistency and
time?
accountability. You have to
Right.
follow the rules at some point. I think
Right.
that's
And
one of the hardest things that gets lost with this whole homeless stuff. That
when if you work 40 hours and you only show up for 30, they're gonna fire you.
Yep.
It's guaranteed.
last
So,
year, oh my god, I was sick the whole year. I'm thankful they didn't fire me for it.
well, and being sick, that's different. And I think your
Oh, it was
work probably knew
bad.
that. But my gosh, just not showing up. And so, but we graduated a lot of people. We got them jobs. And um I get messages sometimes on Facebook from some of them saying, thank you for taking the time to come out and talk to us and treat us like human beings. And so I'm going to let you finish, but before I let you finish, I'm just going to say this one thing. People, when you see homeless people, they may scare you, etc., but they're not animals. They're human beings. Please don't treat them like they're animals. The thing that broke my heart the most was I went out with Buena Park PD to count homeless people, and we asked a lady, is there anything we can do for you? And the only thing she wanted was for us to let the rest of society know that they're not animals. And that broke my heart, because can you imagine how bad people were treating that lady for that to be the one thing she wanted as help?
And
So,
like myself, I don't like giving direct handouts. I'm respectful. No, thank you. No, no can do. I'm not sitting there, oh, get a job, or, screw you, and
yeah.
cussing at them and stuff. No, it's, hey,
There's no
you're
need for
down
that.
on your luck. You don't need me hammering down on you more, you know. So I feel good, dude. We had a good conversation.
Yeah, I do appreciate you being here. So, but yeah, I think it's time for it's that time. What do you say, honey?
I say it's probably time for good night, everyone.
Hey, everybody.
Hasta bye bye. Thank you for listening to the Nightly Rant.
If you enjoyed the show, please give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or Google Play.
If you didn't enjoy the show, please just ignore that previous request for a rating.
This has been a Yogi's Podcast Network production.